So last year we went on a vacation with my family to a resort, and almost every evening when we would go to dinner, I saw families come in, sit around the table to enjoy a meal. But what I observed really struck me. I don't think I ever really paid attention to this the way I did here. Almost everyone at the table was holding a smartphone all the way through dinner. Both older families and those with young children all did the same thing. No interaction, no conversation, just everyone in their own virtual world. I'm sure that I'm not the only one who sees this more often these days. Anywhere you go today, you see toddlers with some kind of electronic device in their hand. And for young parents, that's convenient. These devices are the inexpensive go-to nanny. But most don't understand about the consequences and how this will impact their child's development. Last month, I invited Dr. Daniel Binus on my podcast. He is a psychiatrist and founder of Beautiful Minds Clinic here in Auburn, California. And here's what I asked him.
I don't know if you get asked this question. What is the appropriate age for a child to even have a smartphone?
I frankly believe that it's best for children not to have a smartphone at all. The data actually shows under age 5, kids shouldn't have screen time. Part of the issue is the brain is so much developing in childhood. And so when you introduce screens to children at an early age, the emotional part of the brain is developing at that point. The logical part of the brain develops later on. What the entertainment screens do, whether it's movies, video games, television, social media, is that they stimulate dopamine, which is this feel-good neurochemical and makes you feel motivated. It's actually what's released even when people do drugs or do some kind of addictive behavior. You get that high, that euphoria. When you do that and you introduce the screens to kids and they have, again, very little frontal lobe, very little logical part of their brain, and the emotional part of their brain is developing, it's this huge dopamine hit and they become addicted very easy and they don't have the self-control to know how to say no and when to regulate, right? What it's doing is it causes not only the addiction, but an overdevelopment of that emotional part of the brain. And then it also causes an underdevelopment of the frontal lobe, which is very important for reasoning, for self-control, for decision-making, and even being aware of themselves and motivation and all of these factors. And so typically I recommend trying to avoid screens before age 5. And then between 5 and adulthood, no more than 1 hour a day. Even then it needs to be very closely monitored because there's so much junk out there and the parents really have to state those strict controls. And then above into adulthood, no more than an hour and a half. This is what the research shows are kind of basically the cutoff times if you want to try to reduce your likelihood of developing mental illness. So, a lot of parents are like, well, but my kids, they need a phone because what if they need to call? There are dumb phones. So there's old school like flip phones and stuff, and they can text. And they even have some of these phones where all you can put on there is like a map app so they can still have directions and call and text and that's it. And that's fine. I have no issue with that, but it's the entertainment, the internet stuff that we got it. First of all, I think this is why a lot of people, on top of the media and all of this, but this is another reason why the younger generations are struggling more with their mental health. When you look at what happened in COVID and even now, but they're looking toward the future and they're saying everything going on in the world, everything going on in their country, the future looks kind of bleak. And so then that's where they start losing hope. And again, that can be a big aspect of struggling with depression. And there's many beautiful stories about people that have come out of very difficult situations, suffering, being prisoners of war. I think about Viktor Frankl. Think about Helen Keller, who said, one of the most beautiful quotes, she said, the world is full of suffering, but is also full of those who overcome it. Sometimes we shift on saying like, oh, if I was able to buy a house, or if I was able to like have X amount of money in the bank, then I would be happy and satisfied. But I think we need to go back to those core values of things that really do bring true satisfaction and happiness, which again has to do everything with relationship, with connection. And so we need to get out of this individualistic type of mentality. Our society has always been, maybe I shouldn't say always, but it tends to be very individualistic and, I have to make it on my own. But I think we need to actually start supporting one another more and looking at how we can collaborate together, reconnect as families, as communities to help build each other up. And so again, this isn't just like, this is maybe a bigger picture solution, but as an individual, we can look at and say, well, how can I just start choice ways of improving my overall mental, physical health, and with some of those choose life things. And then how can I look for those opportunities to take the next steps to make my life better? Just every day when we do our part, God has a plan for each person. And as we follow one step at a time, beautiful things will happen. And it's not always that we're going to end up rich, but we will have enough and we will be rich in a different way. Maybe not financially all the time, but if we keep those priorities with our relationships and the most important things in life, that will bring a meaning that nothing else could.
Amen to that.
If you like this video, here's another one for you to watch. If you don't want to miss the next video, subscribe to the channel and hit the notification button.